MySpace and said something like, "How about a screwed and chopped wedding?" We had Action Bronson at Sway on a
What?
month. Yes,
Of all the times we could have gotten arrested, it would have been at
I,
Sway.
he has to perform tonight at fucking Sway because it's a goddamn rite of passage, and he's here.
Hey there, it's me, Roxy Cottontail. You might know me as a DJ, artist, designer, and New York City party promoter, or from my bunny logo. I'm putting all that on the table and writing about the years that transformed music and the New York City scene. I've interviewed 250 friends and colleagues I admire. I ask all and reveal all. Please join me in the tales to rediscover the 90s and the Y2K magical landscape of music, art, technology, and streetwear. This is Roxy's Tales.
Tell us who you are and what you do and what you did.
Seth Zaplin. What I've, done is artist management. And what I was definitely doing then was most definitely artist management and, a little event production here and there. I've also done some pretty major events in my career as well.
Hold on to your gray-brimmed hats, ladies and gentlemen. My guest this week on Roxy's Tales is Seth Zaplin, also known as Seth Dawg. Seth and I have produced and promoted an extensive amount of events together. He's also managed artists and DJs I admire, and his passion for music is extreme like mine. Seth stems from a hardcore DIY punk upbringing and breathes new life into hip-hop from that mindset. He continues to produce monumental events for New York City and creates awareness for artists and brands that matter. Without further ado, Seth Zaplin.
The first night I met you was after a couple of friends of mine. It was Chad Hogan and Graham Oliver, right? Had just came home from Winter Music Conference, and those are two of my very best friends. And they were telling me about a girl named Roxy that they met, and we're gonna go to her party tonight. And that party was at, I can't remember what the name of the place was, but it was the spot on Bowery that's Vandal now. And it was the
Crash Mansion.
And it was Smooth the Hustler and Trigger the Gambler.
You came to that? That was Aaron's birthday. That was Aaron's birthday.
Yes.
I think
and that was my first.
04.
And that was my first Roxy Cottontail.
Wow, they brought you to that
experience. Yeah,
that's a fucking awesome first. It was also Holotronics, Kid America. This is it.
Oh, look at that! And Ricky Powell hosted.
This is like another one that Aaron had made.
That was my first Roxy party, and that was the first time I heard of you.
That's an amazing first party, Seth. Here's another. This might have been around the time that we met.
Yo, I'm so impressed with myself because the gray brim thing is such a thing right now.
Is it?
And this is my second photo in a row. I was early on I was early on the gray brim, and I hope the whole hood knows it. Holy shit.
Speaking of crazy, here we go.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, I wrote this one down. I'm so glad you have this, because let me tell you about this day. I was, managing DJ Green Lantern, who at the time was one of the biggest DJs in the world, probably. So I made friends with the Swisher House dudes real early in the game, like way before they blew up. So by the time they started blowing up, I had relationship in place, and Green's like, one of the biggest DJs in the world. And it just so happened that all those things were taking place on a day that Roxy was having a bad day.
This was also 2004, right?
Probably 2004, 2005. I'm pretty sure Green was Eminem's DJ at this point, but so something like that. Anyway, Roxy's having a bad day. I think we're talking on IM, and you're like, I can't exactly remember the exact situation, but you were not in a good mood. And I was like, well, do you want to meet Paul Wall today? And you were like, of course I want to meet Paul Wall. I was like, well, here's my address, the address to the office, come through. And then I took you to Green's session with Paul Wall, which I think was for like a radio thing. And I knew it was going to be super casual. So I just brought you with me.
It's amazing. I know. You always hooked it up. I was so excited that I made this for my website, which looks like a party flyer, but it is not.
It's literally a flyer for a photo.
Yes. Yes, it is.
I didn't care how like mainstream or global, Green's brand was at the time. I was like, fuck you, we're doing this one. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Because that's just how important Sway on Monday night was. Green surprised me, and we had Action Bronson booked that night. Do you know that?
No.
We had Action Bronson at Sway
What?
on a month. Yes.
When was that?
We had Action Bronson at Sway on a Monday night, okay? Because for a while I was doing a monthly hip hop party at Sway. Listen, Roxy, you're out of your fucking mind.
Here.
Yeah. There you go. Let's see, which one is this? This one was a one. I feel like this one was the one-off we did that wasn't at Sway. Yeah, this one was at Ella. So we paid Action Bronson $50.
That's crazy.
And his music was fucked up. He couldn't like do his actual performance, but Green Lantern had surprised me that night, wasn't supposed to be there, and just came and fucking destroyed the place again. He did like 3 hours. He did like a classic New York set. I don't know if you want to keep jumping around, but this was also the time, and there will be no flyer for this, but there are photos. Mac Miller played this party too, but we had Thurston Howell the third. Say what? Thurston Howell the third was the artist that we booked for this party this night.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And we get into the whole Jasmine Solano was DJing for Wiz, and Mac Miller had just signed to Rostrum, and so those guys were really close. And I just, sending out the text to the homies for the night, and one of those guys was Benji from Rostrum, who told me that Mac was in town, and I was like, well, he has to. And the kids mixtape just dropped, and he was like, he hit me back. He was like, Mac's in town. I was like, well, he has to perform tonight at fucking Sway because it's a goddamn rite of passage, and he's here. You know what I'm saying? And he was like, all right, let me talk to him. And he was like, bet. And so that was crazy because Mac was like 18, 19
I remember
years old.
Before I wasn't there. I was booked somewhere else.
Oh, you weren't there that night. Yo, so
I remember you telling me, and I didn't really know who he was. I was like, well, I just trust you on the strength of anything. So
yeah, but no, I remember, but I'll tell you this much. I remember I sent you his music, and you were hyped, and you even did a little post about it. And you were like, this is great. You were psyched about it. The management at Sway would only let Mac and his homies come in to perform, and then they had to leave.
Underage,
and they wouldn't let him hang. So Mac got to like, oh my God, it was crazy because like Mac got to like, hop on the stage. He did like a couple of songs, and like girls were talking to him, and you could tell he wanted to hang out, but no, you know what I mean? We had to take him right out. And Yellow Wolf was actually there that night.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. On my Instagram is a photo of that I took of Jasmine, Yellow Wolf, and Mac, and it's from that party.
Oh, this might have been when Freeway performed.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
How do you know?
Because when Freeway performed, I was in Japan with Green Lantern.
Oh, burn.
But I handed this event to you.
Yes, you did. You know, it was cool because like I could bring all these Philly hipsters. I mean, that's pretty much like who was my first, you know, test market in this world.
Right.
So for them, they were so hyped. Anyone that I sent this to was ecstatic. I love this photo so freaking much.
Yeah, this is a great photo. I can't believe it. No, see, that's what I'm saying. I'm so glad we're doing this because somebody's a lot of my history is wrapped up in your event. So I'm glad somebody was there with a camera.
So where else were you going besides my events?
Well, like I said, you know, I
Just
was
work stuff, right?
yeah, but like I said, you know, I was very much in like the rap world, the mixtape DJ world. So, you know, I was at the fight clubs and I was at the speeds and I was at the
Envy?
tunnels and I was at the Envy on Wednesdays
Yeah.
and the Lotuses on Sundays.
I'm just breaking out all the golds.
Holy shit. That was
you collaboration.
yeah, that was scary. I definitely thought we were getting arrested this night.
Of all the times we could have gotten arrested, it would have been at Sway.
Yeah, I know. I'm telling you, I really thought that like that was this was it. Who did we put on this weed event though? This is funny.
Oh, this is Schoolboy, Fresh Direct, and Jason Smith. This was an awesome one. And I had to find like a venue that was kind of low key. So this Belmont.
No, you see, Belmont Lounge. Belmont Lounge just had an outdoor area.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
and they had an outdoor area, and they had a very famous reggae party, and that's what made this party so tense because they wanted to do it, but they did not want to fuck up their like weekly reggae party. Yeah. So they just made things very, very tense for us that day.
How could you not? This is like 420 and you've got buds of bunny weed on the flyer.
Yeah, what were we thinking? What were we thinking? I wish I could tell you what event it was, but I'll tell you this much. It was definitely a Roxy event where the Shameless Management logo appeared first.
Oh, is that true?
Definitely. It was probably a Team Facelift performance or hosting.
Yes. But, you know what?
But yeah.
I did find a flyer, but I didn't put it in your there was a lot of Team Facelift hosting Sway performing at it. When I had them perform at Imperial, I just put special guests. Like I didn't.
Yeah. That okay, you know what? That was probably the first appearance of the Shameless logo was Imperial with Team Facelift, the first one or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. So did you have a favorite Roxy Cottontail event or party?
Going all the way back to like our Texas roots, right? That first party, do you remember what it was called?
Screw York City?
Screw York City. There was a little bit of a disconnect when Rapid Rick really started playing the chopped and screw music. Some of like our real born and raised New York homies.
Oh, yeah.
Half of them didn't understand what was happening. It was like a percentage of the room was like too fucked up on drugs, but like not in like the right way to appreciate it, to be like, is something happening to me? Like, why is the music
am I hallucinating?
Then there was just like, there was like, you know, then there was just like, you know, the percentage that of people that were just like offended by chopped and screwed.
So that was your favorite?
Well, it was my personal favorite. You know what I mean? I really don't care about anybody else. I love, you know.
I'm talking about you. What's your favorite?
Yeah. So yeah, I would probably say that, you know. I mean, I'm sure there was other things. There was just so much. Did you have
a favorite DJ or performer?
I really liked Nicole from Nina Sky when she would DJ. I thought she was really great. Obviously, those Green Lanterns are super, super memorable. A-Track's first appearance at Sway was kind of dope. That DJ Black Star
Oh yeah, I love Black Star.
Memorable set at Sway.
You are so vital into like what I was doing or what we were doing. I mean, you know, you fueled the fire that I was, you know, pouring gasoline on in a big, big way. And like not a lot of people know that. And that's why I need to tell this story, because what all these dots that are connecting, you know, and creating essentially what exists today. Did you meet anyone through myself or my events that changed your trajectory?
I discovered Spank Rock through you, but Santi's like one of my best friends. The Santi thing kind of made us closer, right?
Yeah,
Because
I booked
you were
Steph.
you were so close to Naeem,
Mhm.
and you know, Santi, you know, I introduced her to her husband. They have beautiful children.
So did you have any memorable or iconic interactions during this time?
Everything was so crazy. Come on, like we're fucking, there's so many, like, you know, we're taking shots with Kid Cudi, we're fucking smoking backwoods with Jackie Chan, we're fucking, you know, we're damn near observing Diplo on a date with MIA. You know what I mean? There's like so much, there's like so much shit, you know, it's like every
How do you
you know,
I know. Alex said
yeah, like how do you pick?
every day, every night was just memorable and iconic.
I mean, every night was wild night, especially the team facelift stuff. Like anytime we activated them, that was activating some wild maniacs.
Yeah, that was the one of my favorite nights was that Oxy Gives You Ears party that I did at Imperial
Hmm.
and Red Bull sponsored. But yeah, Team Facelift performed at that one.
Yeah, and that was I remember because I wanted them to do that one because we had just put out the Armand Van Helden
Yes. Oh yes. And
remix.
Armand came. Armand came
That,
with all the retro kids. That was all. I felt like that was such a time. Like the retro kids would always be at room service too.
hmm.
It was such a good time. Oh yeah, weren't you managing the first lady of the retro kids too?
No, we managed the retro kids.
Oh, you did. Oh, all the retro kids. Okay. Wow.
Something I meant to hit on about like what I feel like made us closer or whatever is like, yeah, it was like the open-mindedness to the Southern hip hop stuff that attracted me to you. I was so into the fact that you were into the screwed and chopped stuff that I got on your MySpace and said something like, "How about a screwed and chopped wedding?" Okay, yeah. I
Oh.
basically, I asked you to marry me in a MySpace comment, right? And then, and you didn't answer. But then I had met you again at somebody else's party, and you said I do. So that's
Oh,
actually that's the answer. That's how we met. That's the real answer there.
I love that.
The punk rock community and the hardcore community built some real values in people like me and you, right? Where maybe where we learned how to respect women by getting scolded to make sure women had space to fucking be themselves in those at
Yeah.
the shows and community events and whatnot. And it didn't matter if you were gay or black or female, and it didn't matter if you were in the band or not in the band. It was one sort of voice and one kind of vision, right? And so now I feel like that is like what I take with me moving forward
Hell yeah.
in life. And I'm seeing like people that like those values that are were instilled in us in such an early developmental stage are the things that are people are just sort of getting to with like the Black Lives Matter and um
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. And like you're also seeing like the punk rock people that still carry like that punk rock aesthetic, like not having tolerance for any sort of like hate of any kind, and are still being outspoken about all of those issues.
I
You
mean, that,
know,
when even just speaking to Alex before this, that's what bonded he and I to some degree as well, because he came from that world. Like I would see him at Motherfucker, but then I would see him on Lafayette Street skating with the homies, and I was like, you're cool, and he has that, he carries that with us as well.
it's like, no, it's like when you think about it, Roxy, you set the atmosphere for a decade.
Well, Seth, thank you so much.
Yeah, this was cool. This was great, Roxy.
Awesome.
Thanks for hopping by. That's it for this week. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, comment, and stalk. Bounce, little kitty.